Bumblebee is the Transformers solo film slash prequel, but not really a prequel, more so a reboot, focusing solely on the origins of the Bumblebee character, how he landed on Earth in 1987 and encountered the human Charlie Watson, played by Haley Steinfeld. And of course, because he's an Autobot, you have the government on Earth trying to track him down, you also have Decepticons coming in trying to find him, and while Charlie and Bumblebee are avoiding these two dangerous forces coming in on them, they're also getting to know each other, forming their own special bond with each other. Now, if you've been around my channel before, you already know my complicated history with the Transformers film series. I've explained them much better in the past videos, so basically I like the first one, third one's okay in my book, 2, 4, and 5 all suck, and the fifth one really just ruined any hype that I could have had for any future Transformers installment. But once I kind of learned about this film, that Travis Knight was going to make it, that it was going to try to reboot certain aspects of the film series and also give the Transformers a whole new look, cut back on a lot of storytelling aspects and keep it focused, I was actually getting more interested in seeing this film, and it became one of my most anticipated for the rest of this year. So when I found out that they actually were doing like an early advanced screening of this film, I was like, well, this comes out the same weekend as Mary Poppins and Aquaman, so yes, I'm gonna have to go see this right away. It wasn't something that I was really dreading. It was just something that I was really optimistic for, and I didn't want any of my hopes to be dashed. I was just really hoping for a good movie out of this. Finally, a good Transformers movie, right? And those are basically the hopes I had in mind while I was fiddling with this guy. This is Dropkick, voiced by Justin Theroux in the film. They handed like a bunch of these out. I don't know why I'm actually holding this up in this video. But this was cool, and I walked out of this film really enjoying it. To no surprise, this is the best Transformers film we've gotten, but it's not like, oh, well, it's good, but it still has a lot of issues. Like, no, there's actually like a lot of great stuff in this film. I really enjoyed watching this film. This movie actually has heart. The bond shown between Bumblebee and Haley Steinfeld is really touching, and Haley Steinfeld's character Charlie Watson is actually quite good. It's a good human character that we can follow who isn't annoying, isn't doing anything stereotypical or irritating like that. It's just a really fleshed out character that has a lot of backstory that still kind of haunts her to some degree emotionally. And seeing how her character starts to evolve and change because of how she's interacting with Bumblebee and how she's helping him out, how Bumblebee's helping her out, that was just a really great thing to see. It was just so great to see these two friends just get along and experience the journey in this film. There's also no moments where Bumblebee does something irritating, because that was a problem that I had with some of the later installments, is that Bumblebee did some things that really just got on my nerves, and I was like, this isn't like a Bumblebee characteristic at all. But in this film, they really did nail the Bumblebee character, and he looks great. The ILM team that worked on him, fantastic visual effects. Not just because like they're just good visual effects and they don't look cheap or anything, but also because the designs are perfectly G1-esque. You know, like the thing about the Michael Bay CGI is that I actually do enjoy a lot of those designs, but you can definitely tell that they were going way too like overly complicated with a lot of the shifting gears and all that stuff. But in this one, what they kind of explained is that they kind of cut back and made it a little bit more simpler, which honestly works to their advantage so much. The transformations that you see look great, and you're sitting there watching it going like, yeah, that actually seems plausible that that could transform like that, and they could move their body parts to fit into that car or to that plane. So the visual effects are actually the best Transformer effects that we've seen in a very long time, especially when they open the film with Cybertron, and it's this elongated action sequence that you can see clearly, that you can pinpoint different designs on the characters. It's not just silver and gray, like just blowing each other up. Like you can actually see each action sequence. The camera's just, it's just so well filmed. Travis Knight directing this film was just such a great choice. Not only, like I said earlier, did he know what kind of heart to bring to this story, but he also knew how to direct the action sequences. Like if you've seen Kubo and the Two Strings, that's a movie that has a lot of heart, but also has a lot of fantastic stop motion action sequences. So to see this film's action, like it was like no surprise that it was so great. But what I also wanted to bring up about the action sequences is that, yes, they're all really entertaining, and visually they all look great. You can make it out. It's so well choreographed. But what I really enjoyed about this film is that it's not really an action film throughout. You open the movie with a big action sequence like Cybertron to Earth, and then you also have the big finale action sequence, and there's like some minor stuff that happens near the middle, but this movie isn't really a big Michael Bay-esque action movie or just like any other action movie that you've seen this year. This movie, throughout the middle portion, actually does take its time, like I said, growing the bond with Charlie and Bumblebee, and that was like the most surprising part to me. I thought for sure that like either Paramount or Lorenzo di Bonaventura would have been like, no, we need to have like an action sequence here, and we need to put something here that's action worthy, but no, like they're only like big action sequences that I can really think of happen to introduce the film, and then to also close out the film in the big finale action sequence. Like, there's a large portion in the middle where there's certain things that you could say are kind of exciting, but they aren't really the action sequences that you're kind of used to seeing in a Transformers movie, which is great. It's a really great approach. And I really also have to commend not just Travis Knight, but also the screenwriter, Christina Hodson. I think that's how you pronounce her last name, sorry. But she did a really good job writing this, and I was so surprised to find out, walking out, like going on IMDb, to find out that she had previously written Shut In and Unforgettable, two movies that I hate. Like, they're terrible movies. But so to find out that she actually wrote this film and it's as good as it is, and it's such a great new approach to a Transformers movie, that was the most shocking thing to see. I was not expecting that at all, but she pulled it off. Like, she's actually improved as a writer a bit, so that's really good. I also really like how they handled Charlie's family stuff. Like I said earlier, the human characters aren't that bad at all in this. Like, I can't really think of one human character that I didn't like, especially her family. Like, Sam Witwicky's parents in 1 through 3, not good, like, not good comedically, but in this one they really did work in a really good family dynamic with Charlie. Like, the young brother who was in the Diary of Wimpy Kid the Long Haul didn't irritate me in this one. He was actually a good kid actor in this. The parents, like, are really good here as well, and they have an interesting dynamic with Charlie. Everything that doesn't really work in the Michael Bay movies actually works off quite well in this one. Especially the villain characters, Shatter and Dropkick, played by Angela Bassett and Justin Theroux. They were great. Like, not only can they be comedic with each other, but they can also be very threatening. Like, in scale, they're much larger than Bumblebee, and since there's two of them, that can cause problems. They're very threatening. You can always tell that they have things worked out. They're partners in that sense. So, like, they actually brought a really interesting threat to our heroes in that sense, and that was really good. It was so great to get some villains that actually felt a little bit more threatening this time, other than Quintessa from The Last Knight, or Megatron again, but he's reincarnated, he looks different, or something like that. I guess the best way to describe Shatter and Dropkick is that they're kind of like Lockdown from Age of Extinction, but they're a little bit more interesting than Lockdown. I do have a couple issues I wanted to bring up real quick. George Lendeborg Jr., who plays the character Memo, I actually liked his interaction with Haley Steinfeld. Like I said, there's no human character that I really dislike in this movie. It's just that his introduction into Haley Steinfeld and Bumblebee's story just felt a little like, that doesn't really like work that well for me. Just feels like we just need a guy, so here you go. Like, that didn't really work for me. I think they could have handled his introduction just a little bit better. Also, there's a moment in this movie where it felt like we just need like a short moment of explosion, so we're gonna have this happen, but it just kind of felt a little random. Like, in the scenario, I guess you could explain it in some way, but it just didn't really feel like it fit, and it didn't really come back at any point later, so it just kind of felt like a thrown-in thing, just to happen for no reason, really. And my final issue that I had with this movie is that there's a couple moments where it feels like logic isn't really playing in that well. Like, there's a close call moment with Bumblebee, like someone's about to walk in, but he's like a robot, but as soon as the person walks in, like, oh, it's a car now, but the way the person was walking in and where the car ends up being, they would have noticed Bumblebee transform, and they also would have heard it, but you don't hear any sound conveniently at that moment, so that kind of threw me off a bit. There's also a moment where a character is riding off to catch up with someone, and they leave behind a certain thing that they were riding, but then it comes back later, but they left it behind in that one scene, so it was like that you missed a detail right there. And there's also two explosion moments where, realistically, the way they kind of show it, the person would be dead, but it's a Transformers movie, so that's not a huge thing. It's just all these little, like, few logical moments kind of build up into, like, one issue for me, basically. Mathematically, I know that it's weird that I mathematically try to put in, like, little small minor nitpicks and it forms into one flaw. But other than that, I really had a great time with this movie. I enjoyed the heart, I enjoyed the story that I was watching, the bond between Charlie Watson and Bumblebee was great, the visual effects were great. The third movie's the last Transformers movie where I've liked the visual effects, basically. basically. The action sequences, they're clear, they're well choreographed. There's a lot of great killer moves done by the robots in this movie that actually had, like, the audience I was in, like, actually, like, actively cheering because of how sweet certain, like, fight moves were. Like, that was just really great to have an audience actually getting into a Transformers movie for once. The heart works, the action works, the human characters work, the villains work, and even this movie's surprisingly funny too. Like, it's a lot funnier than you'd expect. Like I've said earlier, the villains have some fun moments. There's one killer line by Justin Theroux that had everyone in the theater dying at a moment you wouldn't expect people to be dying with laughter at, but it was really funny. Also, John Cena, he's playing it up big time. He's just this big personality, but he works really well. I was really entertained by him, and he also has one line of comedy that had everyone in the theater dying with laughter, and I was like, that's great. This movie knows that it should take itself seriously, but not too seriously, because this is based off of a cartoon meant to sell toys after all. There's just a lot of elements that I really liked about this film, and if they decide to make more Transformers films based off of the universe they just created with this one, I'd be all for it. Like, bring back the creative team behind this movie, bring back Travis Knight, bring back Christina Hodgson, because they really created something special. They created a Transformers film that I thought I'd never be able to see after all the Michael Bay movies, but here we are. I really like this movie. It's not perfect, obviously, but it is so much better than what we've been getting. I'm gonna give Bumblebee a B+. There's so much to like about this film, acting-wise, action-wise, directing-wise, cinematography-wise, the score. Aside from a couple screenwriting issues that I had with this movie, overall, I enjoyed the story that they created, and I'd like to see if they could continue this story in another film. But if you've seen Bumblebee, leave in the comments below what you thought of it, and as always, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher. See you guys next time.